Hey nerds, in this video I review and do a spoiler breakdown of The Last of Us, Episode 3, titled Long Long Time, written by Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, directed by Peter Hoar. Starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social, I'm John. The spoiler-free summary for this episode is: when a stranger approaches his compound, survivalist Bill forges an unlikely connection. Later, Joel and Ellie seek Bill's guidance. Before I continue with the spoiler-free review of this, if you like this content, if you'd like us to do more of this type of content, please, to help us with the algorithm, please like and subscribe, and we'll be sure to get you more of what you like and put it together from the Nerd Social. All right, let's get right to it. So, spoiler free here. This episode is definitely a different focus. While we do still have the continued journey of Joel and Ellie here, the focus actually shifts to Bill and Frank in this episode. And we get to definitely learn a little bit more about what makes Bill and Frank so special here, and definitely a little break from Joel and Ellie. And, so far, if you haven't already been spoiled by some of the internet chatter, everyone is praising the hell out of this episode. They giving it lots of kudos. The way some of the content, some of the focus, some of the characterizations were happening in this particular episode with Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett. Those guys did a great job in this episode, and they really stole the show here. But it shows a little bit about how things were happening, leading, especially during the early days of the infection, and bringing us to now as part of this post-apocalyptic world, and also how Joel and Ellie kind of fit into the picture with Bill and Frank. And as you know from the last episode, they were on their way to go see Bill and Frank. And again, fantastic portrayal of these characters. And these two characters are in the game as well. They're absolutely in the game, although done very differently. So I'll talk a little bit more about that in the spoiler breakdown. But again, very strong episode. And I'm sure the song selection here that they like to repeat in this, or they've gone over more and more, definitely made it, they centered around this particular song. Has shot up the charts on Spotify as well. That's Linda Ronstadt's Long, Long Time, in which this episode is titled after. And I'm sure it has the same Stranger Things effects that Kate Bush's song, Running Up the Hill, did for that show. It's probably going to do the same here. And from what I'm reading, I do see it creeping up the charts as well. So, again, strong episode. If you... I'm not going to spoil as to, I was going to say bring certain things, but don't worry about it. Just enjoy it yourself. Just go in cold and just enjoy the episode. It is a longer episode compared to the first two. I think it was 79 minutes or something. That includes the credits. But again, you get to spend a lot of time with these two characters that we haven't seen before. And I think it's again a very good episode, very strong episode, very memorable as well. And anyways, go and enjoy it. And now I will go into spoiler territory here as we go into the spoiler breakdown right now. All right, you've been warned. Spoilers from here on out. So. There's no cold opening in this episode, no cold opening at all. So we don't get the little vignettes that we got to see with John Hannah in the first episode, and the vignette in the showing Indonesia, but nothing like that here. The vignette here is actually really Joel and Ellie in the present day. Joel and Ellie, we see them in the woods. I saw some chatter about this where... supposedly it's 10 miles outside of Boston, and everyone's making fun of it. It's like, there's nowhere in Boston, anywhere near Boston, that looks anything like that, especially as nice and beautiful like that. And clearly they filmed it somewhere else, I think Canada or something like that. But they're in the woods, and Joel is still distraught from losing Tess. He's even building a little a stone memorial in memory of her. And Ellie seeing and detecting that Joel may possibly have even more animosity towards her, because possibly blaming her for this, speaks out and says, "Hey, look, don't blame me. I have nothing to do with this. You came here of your own choice, so did she, and you're doing this for a truck battery, and so don't blame me." He's like, "Yeah, I pretty much agree with that." So they move on. And as they're moving on, as they're walking, Ellie keeps asking for a gun. She sees another gun in addition to the one that Joel is carrying. He's like, "Absolutely not." He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to talk to her. He's still very grumpy. And she's trying to make some small talk, and she's trying to just connect, it sounds like. And he wants nothing to do with it. He still doesn't believe any of this is real. So, especially the mission of Ellie having something within her that may possibly lead to a cure of cordyceps. So they come upon an abandoned building. It looks like a store of some sort. They're going there because Joel had a stash there from long ago, and he just can't remember where because it's been so long, so he's digging around for it. And while he's doing that, Ellie goes off to explore, and as she goes to explore, she goes down into a basement. In the basement, there is a clicker. He is, looks like he is trapped. The clicker, it looks like things caved in the basement. Can't move, so she goes over there, takes her opportunity to, like a child with an insect, just trying to play around with this thing, and eventually puts it out of its misery. She kills it with her knife, and so she comes back upstairs, and Joel finally finds the supplies, and they're back out on the road again. So back on the road, there's more banter. They come upon a crashed plane. There's some talk about Ellie never, wishing she, lamenting that she never got to fly, and Joel did because that was during his time. They talk a little bit about cordyceps here as well. Joel says, people believe and explains that cordyceps may have mutated and gotten into the food supply, like bread and cereal and things like that. That seems to confirm or validate a lot of internet chatter or theories that were going on the internet as to how this thing started. In the game, it's not fully explained. So this is definitely something new for the TV show, where they kind of go into this a little bit and confirming some of the fan theories as to where it's come from. So as they're walking along, they're coming upon some bones. Ellie finds these bones, human bones. And Joel explains that this is more like an open grave site, where back in the day, during the early days of the panic, a lot of people were led to being relocated somewhere else, and only to be relocated and herded right into their final destination, an open grave, it looks like. So the camera focuses on the bones again. In the bones, there's looks like a tattered old dress, green dress, and quickly transitions to a scene where we see a woman with a green dress on. So this is a flashback, so you see Fedra, or the government at the time, transporting all these people out of this town. And from the house that's nearby of where all these people are being transported from, we see a silhouette of someone not only looking out, but he clearly has a whole bunch of cameras looking at the view screens of these cameras, and looks like he's trying to verify if these people are gone. And as soon as they're gone, he goes into action. And then we see that it's Nick Offerman playing Bill in this episode. And it's a montage played against music where it indicates that this dude is just loving it. It's what he's been waiting for all his life as a doomsday prepper, survivalist, or whatever you want to call it. So he's on a shopping spree, goes right to the local stores and stocks up even more, gets gas, all that stuff. And he's now setting up all the other things in addition to what he already set up in his house for doomsday, and starts converting basically this little town with fences, booby traps, more cameras all over. So this is a haven for him. He just absolutely loves it. So it even has a nice, funny scene where he's enjoying dinner. And by the way, the dinner that he's prepared, he looks like an amateur gourmet chef because it looks fantastic. So as he's enjoying his meal, camera or an alarm goes off, and he's able to see on a monitor one of the clickers outside. And as the clicker is moving towards one of his traps, goes off and blows his head off. And he's cracking up, going, "Yeah, that'll never get old." So, well, another day we see that another alarm has gone off. That alarm goes off, and he goes outside to see. So this is another different trap that he has set up. It's just basically a big hole in the ground. As he approaches the hole, there's someone in the hole, and that person is Frank. This is where Bill first meets Frank, and that's Murray Bartlett. And if you remember Murray Bartlett from other shows, more recently from season 1 of The White Lotus, played another memorable character there. Oh, and I forgot to mention Nick Offerman. Everybody knows Nick Offerman, particularly more famously for Parks and Recreation, where he plays Ron Swanson there. And these two do a great job in this episode. This is where they first meet. Bill takes in Frank. Frank convinces him to be taken in. Bill's very, very cautious, paranoid. He wants nothing to do with it, but clearly he has a bit of a heart, so he takes him in. Maybe some loneliness, maybe something like that is in him, and Frank just wins him over. So Frank is enjoying a hot shower, and it looks like we're now at the dining table where Bill usually enjoys his meals. You only see Frank there just kind of waiting, and as soon as Bill enters in from the kitchen, he's got his plates of food. He pauses like, "Why are you standing?" So, Frank, taking the cue, just goes and sits right back down. And as soon as he puts the plates down in front of Frank is just in awe because this meal looks fantastic, especially in that day and age, because he probably hasn't had a great meal like that in a long, long time. And back when he was taking a shower too, you could hear him just absolutely enjoying that shower. He's, "Oh, this is amazing." So, and Bill even has bottles of wine. So he tore up he definitely ransacked the local liquor store, wine store, and got a lot of wines. And the way he even holds the wine looks like a sommelier. And so they, they make a little even joke about how he doesn't appear to be the type, but Frank assures him he is. A little bit of flirting going on there too. He definitely praises him, compliments him on a lot of these things. And once the meal is done, the original deal was, hey, just shower, fresh set of clothes, meal, and he's on his way to the next quarantine zone, just passing through. And Frank says, "But first," because he noticed there is an antique piano in the other room. He runs over there, and he's just digging through that thing. And he makes a few comments that alludes to him just kind of, again, some light flirting with Bill, it sounds like to me. As he's going through the different music books, he's like, "No, that's not you. That's you. That's definitely you." And wants to play, and of course it lands on "Long, Long Time" by Linda Ronstadt. So he plays a song, and it sounds like he just butchers the song on the piano, and all, with his singing as well. And Bill's just not having it at all. He says, no, just out. And Frank says, "Well, you play. You do it." And he plays a very somber, sullen version of "Long, Long Time." Clearly, it is his version of it, his rendition, and just pours out his emotions through that song. And Frank seems to notice that this song definitely has great meaning for him, and says, "So who's the girl that you're singing this about?" And Bill says, "There is no girl." And Frank says, "I know, there isn't." So we see that he leans in for a kiss, and these two kiss. So whatever he was feeling, I don't know if it was repressed or whatever, and you just don't know that part, and it just kind of all comes out, and clearly they get together, And so this is the part where, I know there was a lot of backlash online about that. The game only alludes to it a little bit. So the difference in the game, for those of you who have not played the game, and for those of you who have played the game, the relationship with Bill and Frank is just only alluded to, just mentioned. We only get to meet Bill in the game, and Frank is not in the picture. And we'll get to that. So, so here, we're definitely getting the full backstory of Bill and Frank in this show. And from there, it just goes on. They get to get intimate in bed, and they don't get graphic or anything. They show a very sweet moment with the both of them, and then quickly turns into, looks like their relationship is now blossoming. Frank is here to stay, and Frank, now we cut to another scene where he wants to put his mark on the little town or the house. He wants to get things painted. He wants to put some things up his way. He wants to put his stamp on it. Meanwhile, Bill's like, why? Why did, he's Mr. Practical. He doesn't see the need for any of that stuff. So it just sounded like, to me, a couple arguing about certain things that are important to them, things that make them happy, right? And Frank clearly is yearning for more social connection, so he does that with the radio. And Bill doesn't like it, of course. He just doesn't care. He's okay with just the two of them. But Frank wants to reach out to others as well. And that's where we get to see Tess and Joel in a flashback where they get to sit down with them, have a meal. And Bill is just absolutely on guarded, just gruff. Definitely has very paranoid about and suspicious of people, particularly of Joel and Tess, and knowing what we know of Joel and Tess, absolutely they should be, But Joel proposes at that time, hey, there's an opportunity here for trade, like he offers to, he's got more fencing that he can help bring and make trade with, noticing that Bill's fencing is rusting already and probably wouldn't last anyways, particularly against raiders that can come by and possibly breach that fence as well. So that's where we get to meet Joel and Tess, and Frank is just chumming it up with Tess and Joel. So he's just loving the social interaction. Bill seems to be lightening up a little bit, especially as Joel tells him to put away his gun. He doesn't need his gun. And more foreshadowing when Joel mentioned those raiders. Shortly thereafter, it looks like raiders are attacking outside. Both Bill and Frank are asleep when this happens. Frank is the first to notice. He's freaking out, or at least we think he's the first to notice. Looks like Bill's already outside. He's firing back, defending their little town. Their fence and perimeter is protecting them from the raiders. All of his traps, all of his booby traps are going off, taking them out one by one. And in the middle of all the chaos, Frank is trying to get Bill back to the house, and Bill is shot coming back in. And Frank is frantically trying to tend to Bill. They're on the kitchen table, and Bill is shot, it looks like in the gut. And he doesn't look good. He doesn't look good at all. It looks like he's about to lose it. And I swear, this scene right here, the way they filmed it, I thought Bill died. I really thought he died. My wife and I are watching it going like, oh, shoot, he died. And we're just like with our mouths hanging open. Oh, man, he died. But no, quick fast forward. We see that Bill is alive. He's older now. And Frank is older as well, but Frank is in a wheelchair. He's in a wheelchair, and Bill is having to move him around quite a bit. So clearly, Frank is ill. Something's wrong with him. He's not doing well. And later on, they make a reference to, it looks like he has some sort of infection that's hitting him a little slower, but it's affecting all of his motor skills. He can't really do much on his own. Bill's having to helping him cut a steak, carrying him to and from bed. He has to go around everywhere in a wheelchair. Looks like he's trying to maintain some motor activity. Bill has him painting, got him painting supplies, and he's trying to paint. but I don't know if you noticed, but there's a progression of paintings there. They look less and less coherent. Maybe more and more Picasso. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it looked like to me it just didn't look that great. And but at each of these moments that we see of Frank, he is not happy. He looks very depressed, just not there at all. And finally, in one of the moments, he tells Bill that today is his last day. So how that scene was shown was Bill brought him to bed, and but it looks like in morning, it cuts to the morning, and you see Frank in his wheelchair, and Bill's just getting up out of bed like, oh my gosh, what are you doing out of bed? And Frank says, it took me all night, took me several hours, but I did it myself because I couldn't sleep, And but basically he has been contemplating that this will be his last day. He doesn't want to go on like this anymore. Bill, and they cut to several scenes where he's trying to explain that to Bill. Bill is distraught. Bill is sad. Bill's crying, and he doesn't want him to do this. But at the same time, there's Frank's argument that this is what he wants. This is how he wants it to be. He doesn't want him to continue like this, and there's no doctor coming to save them, because he made a comment saying, hey, before any of this, there was no cure. What makes you think some doctor's going to show up to this place and be able to cure this now? There is no hope for this. So his dying wish is they want to dress up nice, get married. He wants Bill to cook another magnificent meal, and he wants him to crush up all his medicine and put it all into the wine, and that way he can go to sleep and not wake up. So again, very emotional, all of this. Bill, I feel Bill. We all feel Bill as viewers in the audience, that this is very sad. He clearly loves him very, very much. So they do just that. The final meal, they're dressed nice in their suits. And then Bill comes out with a wine bottle, wine glasses, and looks like he's already crushed all the medicine, and he pours it all into the wine, stirs it all up for Frank, and Frank takes it, drinks it, and Bill also drinks his as well, and that's when he reveals he also took the medicine as well. That when Frank goes, Bill goes with him, and Frank did not agree, but at the same time, he confesses that it's very romantic, and so they both go. He says, "Take me to bed," and they go off to the bed in the bedroom, and that's when we last see them on that scene. Then we cut to Joel and Ellie coming upon the camp, coming upon their home. Joel opens the door to the house. Bill and Frank are not answering them as he calls out to them, and Ellie finds a note, and the note is written by Bill. This note that Bill writes pretty much tells Joel, it's addressed to Joel, and it says that you can take all of our supplies, all of our equipment, whatever you need. Frank and I are actually in the bedroom. Please don't come into the bedroom. We left the windows open, to basically let the air out as they have their last days there. But it says, please respect our wishes, not come into the bedroom, take everything else. Everything else we leave to you. So they have passed is what it was, right? So Joel goes into the garage and finds all the materials looks like to make a battery. So he starts piecing out. You don't get to see him piece it all together or assemble anything, but it sounds like he made a reference to it that is charging, needs another hour or so to charge the battery. There is a truck, the pickup truck that Bill had used in the past, so they can actually have a ride and move on. So while that's going on, Ellie finds a gun in a drawer, and that's Frank's gun. So she quickly stashes it. Remember, in a previous episode, or previously, she's been asking for a gun. And she finally gets one, puts it in her backpack, and Joel says, it's time to go. Let's go. So they hit the road in the pickup truck. While they're in the pickup truck, Ellie finds a cassette tape, pops it in, and it's Linda Ronstadt's long time playing. And so they are driving off and off to their next destination, off to find the Fireflies. So again, strong episode. Differences with the game. Definitely gives us backstory of Bill and Frank that were not in the game. And strong performances from Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett in this game, in this show. I keep referring to the game, but very strong performance. They did a wonderful job. They really did. They really did a great job portraying these two characters. The love, the emotions, the pain that was felt, and if you don't have a dry eye, if you have a dry eye after this, and if you don't tear up at some of these things, I don't know. I can't help you. But these were definitely some heavy moments in this show that were done well, done very respectfully as well, and done beautifully in some cases too. So a very enjoyable episode. Definitely a longer episode as well, about 79 minutes from what I understand. And I think it'll go down as probably one of the episodes to really look back on. And again, this is just the third episode. We've still got several more to go for the show in season 1. So again, this was a very strong episode, strong acting job by the main characters in this one. And it was a quick side trip with Bill and Frank. Well, that brings us to the end of this spoiler breakdown. And if you enjoy this type of content, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time for the next video. Bye, everyone.